Runner's knee has officially evolved from a common injury into a silent digital epidemic, haunting the global running community more than any other ailment in 2026. We must face the reality that the very sport we love is becoming a source of widespread anxiety, and today we will uncover the truth behind this collective obsession to see what is really happening under the surface. If you look at the trending threads on Reddit, the desperation is palpable.
One runner recently shared a post titled, "My kneecaps feel like glass," and it instantly garnered thousands of echoes from people who feel their athletic identity slipping away. On Strava, the comment sections of long-distance activities are no longer just about pace and PRs. They are filled with warnings like, "Listen to the click before it is too late." YouTube's algorithm is now dominated by heated debates between biomechanical experts and frustrated hobbyists, all searching for that one elusive cure.
This is not just a physical sensation anymore. It is a global conversation about the limits of human endurance and the flaws in our modern training philosophies. We often find ourselves wondering if our gear or our form is to blame, as the digital space becomes a chaotic library of conflicting advice. Let us take a moment to filter through this noise and analyze the core reasons why your knees are sending these distress signals, so we can finally move forward without fear.
Think about it this way. We transitioned from 4 legs to 2 in a relative blink of an evolutionary eye, and frankly, our anatomy is still playing catch-up. While we pride ourselves on being the ultimate persistence hunters, the human knee remains a bit of a biological compromise. You have probably seen those heated debates on fitness forums, where one frustrated runner laments, "My body was built to run, so why do my joints feel like they are made of glass?"
The reality is that the patellofemoral joint is essentially a high-pressure pulley system forced to operate on a frame that was originally designed for a very different gait. We are asking a simple hinge joint to manage complex rotational forces every time our foot strikes the pavement. This structural vulnerability is precisely why runner's knee isn't just a lack of training. It is an inherent design flaw.
It is as if nature gave us a high-performance engine, but forgot to properly reinforce the suspension, leaving us with these frustrating biological gaps that lead to chronic pain. Let's zoom in to what I like to call the ground zero of your discomfort. Have you ever wondered why that dull ache behind your kneecap feels so persistent? Many of you in the comments have been asking if your knee is just getting old or if there is a deeper flaw in your mechanics.
Well, one runner recently shared a comment saying it felt like their bones were literally sandpapering each other. And honestly, they are closer to the truth than they realize. When we analyze the specific intersection where the patella slides over the femur, we find a delicate, high-stakes balance. In a perfect alignment, it is a smooth, lubricated movement. But the moment your running form deviates, perhaps through hip instability or improper foot strike, that kneecap begins to track off course. It is no longer a glide, it is a mechanical collision.
This is the exact point where friction turns into a silent predator, grinding away at the soft cartilage designed to be your primary shock absorber. We aren't just discussing minor soreness, we are witnessing the microscopic destruction of your joint's integrity. You might hear people in the running community say you should just push through the pain, but once that protective layer thins, every stride becomes a countdown toward chronic inflammation.
Let's look closer at the precise millimeter where this devastating pressure peaks. Imagine for a second that you are not the runner, but the silent, smooth cushion tucked tightly beneath your kneecap. I am your patellar cartilage, and right now, I am silently screaming. Every time your foot hits the pavement with that jagged, uneven strike, I feel like I am being dragged across coarse sandpaper.
You might perceive it as a dull, annoying ache, but to me, it is a slow, agonizing erosion of my very soul. We often see runners posting online saying, "Just push through the burn, it is just part of the grind," or "No pain, no gain." But as many concerned voices in the fitness community are now pointing out, ignoring that subtle clicking sound is often the biggest mistake of a training cycle. They are absolutely right.
When your alignment shifts even a fraction of an inch due to poor form, I am forced to absorb thousands of pounds of pressure that I was never designed to handle. I am being squeezed, crushed, and shaved down, one improper stride at a time. Let us look closer at why this mechanical failure happens and why my silent tears eventually turn into the sharp, debilitating sting that stops you dead in your tracks.
Now, let's stop looking only at the knee and shift our focus upward to the real culprit. We often talk about the knee as if it's an isolated part, but from a biomechanical perspective, it's often just the victim of a lazy neighbor. Your glutes are supposed to be the powerhouse of your stride, the massive engine driving you forward while stabilizing your entire leg. But what happens when that engine decides to take a nap mid-run?
You might be wondering why your kneecap feels like it's grinding against bone, and the answer lies in a catastrophic chain reaction. When the glutes fail to fire, your hip loses its anchor, causing your femur to rotate inward and your knee to collapse toward the midline. This is exactly what netizen communities are buzzing about in those viral Fix Your Form threads.
One runner recently commented, "I spent months treating my knee, only to realize my glutes were completely dormant." That's a sentiment shared by thousands. By letting your glutes slack off, you're forcing the delicate structures of the knee to absorb forces they were never meant to handle. It's like a suspension system that's completely bottomed out, leaving the tires to take the full impact of every pothole.
Let's dive deeper into why this lazy glute syndrome is the hidden architect behind that frustrating runner's knee. Now, let's take a closer look at something we've all been tempted by, those sleek, high-tech advertisements that promise to eliminate runner's knee forever. Have you ever wondered why, despite the massive advancements in shoe technology, the actual percentage of injured runners hasn't budged in decades?
It's a paradox that sparks endless debate in running communities. You've probably seen the comments yourself, with one frustrated runner writing, "I spent half my paycheck on the latest injury-proof shoes, yet here I am, icing my knees again." This highlights the massive gap between marketing claims and biological reality. We're often led to believe that more cushioning or a more expensive foam will act as a magical barrier for our joints.
However, logic dictates that a shoe can only redistribute force, not eliminate it entirely. Many of these divine shoes might actually encourage a stride that places even more stress on the kneecap while masking the early warning signs of pain with their soft feel. We need to ask ourselves if we are buying a solution or just a very expensive Band-Aid for a much deeper biomechanical issue that no amount of high-tech material can truly fix.
Many of us lace up our sneakers with a single burning goal, shedding those extra pounds as quickly as possible. It's a common sight in our fitness groups where beginners often post, "I'll run until the fat melts away, no matter how much my knees ache." This obsession with the scale often blinds us to the silent screams of our patellofemoral joints.
Let's consider the sobering reality through the eyes of a former marathoner who once shared a haunting realization after multiple failed surgeries. He traded his long-term mobility for short-term milestones. You might be wondering, is the trade-off truly worth it? While the internet is flooded with no pain, no gain mantras, experienced runners in the community are now pushing back, commenting that pain is a signal, not a challenge.
We must understand that runner's knee isn't a badge of honor, it's a structural warning. When we ignore the mechanical limits of our bodies in pursuit of a slimmer waistline, we aren't just burning calories, we are grinding down the very foundation that allows us to move. Let's pause and look back at how we perceive progress, shifting from a mindset of shredding at all costs to one of sustainable movement.
Beyond the mechanics of your stride, we must address what's happening at the cellular level, because your joints are essentially high-performance engines that require the right fuel to regenerate. We often hear about the magic of glucosamine and chondroitin, but let's dive deeper into how these compounds actually act as the biological scaffolding for your cartilage, helping to thicken that essential synovial fluid that cushions every step. Have you ever wondered why some runners seem to bounce back while others struggle for months? It often comes down to internal chemistry, including the anti-inflammatory power of omega-3s.
However, even the best nutrition can't save a runner who falls into the trap of the no pain, no gain delusion. You've probably seen the heated debates in running forums, where one side argues that pushing through the agony is a badge of honor. One popular comment I recently saw read, "I'd rather crawl across the finish line than quit due to a sore knee." But we need to ask ourselves, at what cost?
This extremist philosophy is a dangerous misunderstanding of how our bodies function. Pain isn't a wall to be smashed through, it's a critical diagnostic signal. When we glorify running through the hurt, we aren't showing strength, we're effectively ignoring a bridge that's about to collapse. Let's shift our perspective and realize that longevity in this sport comes from respecting those signals and nourishing the recovery, rather than treating our own anatomy like an enemy to be conquered.
Now, as we push past traditional methods, we find ourselves standing at the frontier of the 2026 biohacking revolution for knee recovery. You might be wondering if these high-tech gadgets are actually worth the hype, and you're not alone. The digital community is buzzing with excitement, with many users sharing their transformation stories, while others skeptically ask, is this science or just expensive lights?
Let's dive deep into why this is a game changer. We are now utilizing targeted red light therapy not just for surface healing, but to penetrate the joint space, directly stimulating the mitochondria within your damaged cartilage cells to accelerate repair. But we don't stop there.
By integrating advanced compression therapy, we create a rhythmic pressure that mimics the body's natural pump, effectively clearing out the inflammation that causes that nagging runner's knee ache. It's a sophisticated synergy that turns a recovery day into a high-performance cellular reboot. We are witnessing a shift where recovery is no longer about doing nothing, but about precisely managing your biology to get back on the track faster and stronger than you ever thought possible.
Now that we understand why the patellofemoral joint rebels against us, we need to talk about the tactical shift from resting to rebuilding. Many of you in the online running community have expressed deep frustration, with one common sentiment being that just sitting on the couch for weeks does absolutely nothing once you hit the pavement again. That is because runner's knee is rarely a problem of simple overwork, but rather a fundamental problem of mechanical imbalance.
Let us dive into a 10-minute daily protocol that acts like a structural realignment for your lower body. Think of your knee as a delicate suspension bridge. If the supporting cables, your hips and glutes, are loose or weak, the entire bridge wobbles under the slightest load. We begin with isometric quad contractions to gently wake up the stabilizing muscles without putting any shear stress on the joint itself. Next, we move to controlled side-lying leg raises. You might be wondering why we are focusing so heavily on the hips when the pain is clearly in the knee. But as savvy netizens often point out in fitness forums, the knee is merely a victim caught between the hip and the ankle. By strengthening the gluteus medius, we effectively stop the internal rotation that causes the kneecap to grind painfully against the femur. This is not just a list of exercises. It is about re-educating your kinetic chain. We are essentially rewriting your movement patterns so that every step you take in the future becomes a part of the cure rather than a contributor to the injury. Let's embrace this routine together, with the understanding that consistency is the only way to silence the grind for good and get you back to the miles you love.